Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Sunday Night Breakdown. Daniel Routledge and Dave Forrester with you to go through all the action in the final week of the regular season in the British Basketball League. Dave, we made it to the end of another year.
Scary,
Yeah, it
scary
is.
games, beginning to feel a bit of fatigue. It's so hard staring into a computer screen watching basketball.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just difficult. So beginning to get a little bit less tolerant of stuff and less interested in minutiae, but we're nearly there.
But we got some chaos, Dave. That's
They
the
got some
important
chaos.
thing.
Chaos is
We've
good,
got
yeah.
some chaos to finish off with. Let's start off with the slightly less chaotic. Thursday night game, London Lions 97, Surrey Scorchers 85. No Nelson, Grantham, Caboza, Wang out for the season for Surrey. No Robinson and Bailey as well. So and Okasiemi was missing as well. Rare start for Quinn Cooper, not really much in the early stages, and then a 17-1 run around the second quarter broke it open to 45-30.
I'm trying to even remember. I did watch. I did make the effort of watching this game, or at least
Yeah,
turning it on and kind of watching it out of the corner of my eye. I didn't know Wang was out for the season. What's he done?
it's personal reasons.
Personal reasons. Oh, fair. I mean, I wonder if he's. Oh, hope everything sorts itself out there. I'd be interested to see if he's with South Sudan in the summer when
Mm,
they come prior to the Olympics. See whereabouts he is on their kind of depth chart.
mm,
Yeah, it's they've been a bit threadbare, I think. Sorry for a while. They're still
yeah.
playing decent basketball, and they've got a system which they're running. Um, and London are just using these games as tune-up games and
Yeah.
just make sure everybody gets some minutes. The only number that's important in Bozic's mind is the amount of minutes each player plays, basically. So you don't want to be too many, you don't want it to be too few. And yeah, so the bit that I did watch, yeah, the teams ran up and down.
Mm.
We made some shots. London were going to win.
I got here first half 32 points in the paint for London. Surrey 8 for 22 from three, 52-43, and then I put a bit of meh after that.
Yeah, I think that's probably about right. I mean, let's be fair, it's not really a fair contest for Cyclone Jameson and Elliot Bailey to be going up against, Olasheni and Sharma and those
Mm.
guys.
Yeah.
It's so short of depth and size. It's
Mm.
very difficult, and you have to make some threes. And yeah, and there's nothing. Those teams are playing each other in the quarterfinals, but kind of everyone knows what's likely to happen.
Mm. Mm.
I don't. You don't. In the Surrey guys, they've overachieved. I think, to be fair to them, I think you probably have to say they've overachieved. They've had injuries, they've survived
I
them.
think given all the injuries, I think if they had everybody all the way through healthy, then it might have been slightly
Yeah,
different
maybe
season.
that's
I
about
think.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I don't see any. But I don't think they've got any particular user phrase dog in them. I don't think there's anybody who maybe Jameson obviously is going to battle it, but he's going to be outside. He's going to struggle. Um, but the rest of the you know, um, Jordan Taylor's face or having Tariq Phillips slap him around. You don't see that coming, do you? In the
No.
um in the playoffs.
No.
So that everybody kind of knows, that's two and out.
Yeah. Matt Morgan, 24 points, 5 assists. Nawaba, 15 points. Phillip, 12 points, 5 assists. Gooden, 21 points, 5 assists. Steele, 16 points. Cooper, 13. They were 18 of 40 from three and only 10 of 29 from two.
They made 18 threes.
Mm,
So they
mm,
made 18 threes and still lost. I mean,
mm,
bless them. That's
mm,
that's tough. And you think about it, actually, Wang is the only guy with Lions level athleticism on that team.
mm.
And he's not there. The rest of them don't have Lions level athleticism to compete with. So it's, coach has got two hands tied behind his back with that playoff game coming up.
Let's go to Friday, starting in Bristol. The Flyers 75, Caledonia 80. No Keedy Johnson with a foot injury. Quade Green off the bench for Caledonia. A few little runs in the early stages, bit back and forth. Not masses amount in this game, to be honest with you, all the way through.
Well, you've already hit the most important point, haven't you? I mean,
Mm,
it's whether the ball goes in or whether it doesn't go in. The most important thing is what's going on with Quade Green.
mm,
Because he played bench minutes, he played limited minutes. This is the curse of the guy who's tearing up the league, and you can't tell me that there's not something going on in the background which has led to that, to Coach Gareth saying, hang on a minute, this isn't the way we're going to do things. I don't know what it is. No, I'm not casting a spirit, but that is not a normal rotation. There's no benefit in at this point upsetting the apple cart. Whoever's on commentary made the point, and I'd spotted it probably a little bit earlier. I don't think he played any minutes at all. It was Drew Lasker. He hadn't played any minutes at all with Clifton Moore.
Yeah.
In this, Moore comes out, he comes in, and that's almost kind of, chopping your own knees off, which means that, and then Gareth's not done, right? So there's, so that's happening for a reason, and the reason may be, to use the Geordie vernacular, putting someone back in their box a little bit.
Yeah.
It might be. It might be. Okay. It might be. I'll play the kind of the Sky Sports analyst and say maybe he just wanted to try separate combinations. But in reality, I think Drew
when
kind
you've
of
got a really good combination, I think
yeah,
keep going with
yeah,
that.
exactly. In reality, I don't see that. I think that's Gareth sending a message before the playoffs. That Quadri Green needs to be on the same page as the rest of the team. That's what I think. And no more power to him for doing that. I'm not criticizing that at all. But that was kind of the eye kind of bulging. Something's going on here, type of thing. In relation to the game, well, it was it wasn't consequential, was it? Really?
No, it wasn't. That was the issue. There wasn't much riding on it. There were the flurry of threes late in the third quarter got Caledonia ahead, and in the fourth they managed to get 10 points clear, with 3.5 to go. Bristol did get it to 4, but they never looked like they were going to get all the way back. So I've not bothered noting everything down.
No, I mean it's teams are what they are by this point of the season. We've talked about what they are every bloody week, so people should know by now. And they aren't really going to change or diverge from that. You might get some exceptional performances by the guys who don't want to go home yet. And you might get some less in the playoffs, and you might get some less than exceptional performances by the guys who do want to go home. This is motivation. This is the world of the British basketball. It's a long year. Some of these guys in Caledonia, they've been there since August. I love Glasgow guys, but I mean, that's a long winter. And they're sticking at it, and he's in the group still playing well, and they finished third in the league, which is it's about where they should be. Given that they stagnated a little bit early, but they did keep winning, and they won early with defense, and then they've managed to make themselves into a more all-rounded basketball team by the end of the year. Bristol, Mrs. Lucas, sorry, I haven't talked about them. Hey man, you guys let me down again, man. You let me down, man. They can't buy a bucket, No, seriously, it don't really matter. They're going to be tough. Them versus Cheshire is going to be tough, and Keely Johnson is a big part of what they are. So you hope that is a
precautionary, just give him a week off thing.
Yeah. You hope that's what that is, because it would be a shame if he wasn't able to go in the playoffs. I think they're a tough matchup.
It's interesting actually, because you always think 1, 2, 3 pretty much likely to get through, and it's the 4-5 matchup that's questionable. But actually, to me, the 2-7 matchup is probably the most intriguing of the 4.
Yeah, I think it probably is. I mean, apart from the fact, obviously, there's the kind of the Jocks and the Geordies. That's always that you guys don't necessarily get that much, but that is actually, there is a bit of extra on that, even with new teams, to be honest. But that's not really with the teams on the court. That's kind of more the kind of surrounding stuff. But in relation to the teams on the court, yeah, absolutely. I all want to do Cheshire down because they've had a phenomenal year. And it always seems to me that people are far too quick to kind of say, oh, the underdogs could win this one, because it rarely happens. There's a reason someone's second. There's a reason someone's seventh. Bristol are such an atypical team in being through, and they're also a team whereby they do lots of things very well, which means that if they shoot the ball, in 2 games out of 3, if they shoot the ball well, they got the shot, because the other stuff is going to be there. Now, obviously, asking them to shoot the ball well 2 games out of 3 is a bit of a big ask because they
Yeah,
haven't
yeah.
2 games out of 3 in the regular
No,
season.
that's the reason they're in seventh, isn't it?
Yeah, but shooting is shooting is a transferable thing. It can just click.
Yeah, and
That's
I'm
why they're dangerous.
assuming the other thing is, I'm assuming the second leg. I haven't looked at the schedule for that.
Yeah, I
I'm
think it's
assuming the
Sunday,
second
Friday,
leg.
Sunday, I think.
Yeah, so the second leg in Bristol, I'm
Yeah,
assuming.
yeah,
So it's if they shoot well next Sunday in the first
yeah.
leg, steal that one on the road, and then you're coming home with the lead. Is the
Yeah, well, I mean, that's certainly, I think, potentially their best shot.
mm,
I do think that. But, and then obviously, finally, the fact that in a consequential game only a few weeks ago, Bristol won in Cheshire and
yeah,
won
yeah, yeah, yeah.
they were by 30 at one point.
Mm,
So, yeah, it's kind of a fascinating kind of
it is.
setup.
So Green 18 points, 16 rebounds, Thomas Edwards 15, Jacob and Ollison 11, 41% field goal shooting, 2 of 16 for 3. They'll need to be better than that.
It was 16. There you go,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
But here's the thing, Dan. They shot 2 of 16 and they lost by 5
yeah, yeah, yeah,
to a good team.
yeah,
Albeit
yeah.
that was, yeah, that's clearly sorting some stuff out.
Mm,
So that's why it's kind of a scary matchup
mm,
because all you gotta do is one big quarter, bang.
yeah, yeah. Bothwell 17 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists. Green 15 points, almost 12. They were 13 of 21 from 3. That's a
It's going to be
massive
really,
difference.
it is. It's going to be really interesting because that's Caledonia's last game, isn't it? It's going to be really
Mm,
interesting to see, having Bothwell come off the started and gone for 17, 10, and 4,
mm.
knocked down his 3-point shots. Looked like he was in control of the team. What happens next
What
week?
happens next week? Yeah,
What
yeah,
happens next week? Can you really keep Green benched for a playoff? I mean, but Bothwell. Well, but if you take Bothwell out again after Bothwell's done what the coaches want, he's done really well.
mm,
How does he take it? How does
mm,
he
mm,
react to it?
yeah,
It's all kind of human stuff because they're a young team, Caledonia. And what I mean by young is not in age. They haven't been together that long. Green
no.
changed the team. He's only played 8 or 9 games.
No,
They haven't
I think he's 11 or 12 now.
11 of 12 games now. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's still that's a really
Still a
tiny
not a
sample
lot.
size.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah.
a lot to know your teammates and to understand everything about them. Just that's and the playoffs basically comes down to who executes under pressure. The people who execute under pressure are the teams that know each other the best.
Mm,
Teams that have each other's backs that genuinely know,
mm,
what their teammates are going to do, what their rotations are, where they're going to be. Um, and the coaches therefore have more certainty as to the rotations that they can play and more confidence in what they're doing. If you're reaching for rotations in the playoffs, you're struggling.
mm. Yeah, yeah,
You
agree.
know,
Newcastle Eagles 104, Cheshire Phoenix 89. No EJ Stevens for the Phoenix. McGill threes, dunks from Green. Eagles a 13-3 run. They were 17-11 ahead, and then Whitfield joined in with the 3-point shots, and it was 10-point lead for Newcastle.
yeah, it was kind of a fun game this
Mm,
because it's the first time I've seen Cheshire since the only game Cheshire played at Newcastle was like the third game of the season. It was
mm,
back in the beginning of October. And at that point, they really weren't fully formed at
mm,
all. And since then, obviously, they've ended up basically the second best team in the league and they won the trophy. So seeing kind of how that kind of fully formed group is in person was really interesting to us. To see what you kind of figure out the dynamics within the team and that type of stuff. Newcastle were coming off what 3 or 4, 1-4, maybe last 5 games. So they were in a game that they should never have lost last week against
Bristol.
yeah. And so they had a kind of a point to prove. I'm still uncertain about the whole 3 guard thing with McGill, Austin, and Johnson starting. I think they'd be better with Whitfield starting and Austin coming off the bench. But I think whether you get that type of energy and production from Austin off the bench is another thing.
Mm,
So it's all about managing personalities. As a group, I think they're better with the extra shooting to start with, as opposed to the kind of the extra energy to start with. But in this game, it kind of worked for them because Cheshire ultimately we were wondering who was going to be playing, and it ended up being basically all of them apart from Stevens.
mm,
But Cheshire weren't. They weren't fully on it, nor did they need
No,
to.
no,
You know what I
no.
mean? They were
Yeah,
7 of 34 from three. There was just there was little bits of degradation in their in their game. Jack couldn't make a shot. Some of the shots they took, they have this line, Cheshire, whereby because they shoot so many threes, they have to be very careful to make sure enough of them are good threes.
mm,
And I'm not sure in this game enough of them were good threes. I thought some of them were quite early, and I thought Newcastle did a fairly good job of getting out and defending most of them. And then what then happened in the course of the game, because Newcastle's defense cannot hold up for 40 minutes. It basically can't hold up until the moment Defoe goes out of the game, in relation to protecting the rim and that type of stuff. But what happened over the course of the game was Rideau became more and more ball dominant.
mm,
Rideau, a really fascinating guy to watch, absolutely, constantly, literally, probably as much. I was going back in my mind to think who was the last guy I can remember who actually talked as much as he did in that game. And it wasn't just to a certain player it was to everybody.
mm.
You know, it was a ref here, it was a ref there, it was a coach over here. I don't know if you picked it up, but there was a technical at half time where he was in front of the bench, in front of the Eagles bench. And I think him and the Eagles bench got a technical. It
Oh,
was
I
two,
missed that.
well,
Oh,
no,
I missed that.
that was 2 minutes before the beginning of the second half.
All right.
And if you go back in the video, you'll see as you come back to it, you'll see Chris Dodd stood in front of the Eagles bench like he's guarding Buckingham Palace, or whatever castle they have in Edinburgh, or Dundee or Perth or whatever. So no, so that was why he fouled out Rideau, because he got a
Mm.
second foul at half time. And I didn't see it because I was having my lemon gatto.
Prawn sandwich.
Yeah, well, it's
Mm.
desserts is
Yeah.
off. Yeah. So he was just, he was really, I mean, he was into the game,
Mm,
but it was interesting that there was actually probably more interaction between him and everybody else than there was between him and his own team.
mm.
And I'm looking around, and the guys that Rye is it's like Rideau is kind of the emotional leader, but I was looking, is he leading himself or is he leading the team? And
Mm,
Rye's kind of the intellectual leader, because with Rye, the other guys are talking to him and will have a word with him and that type of stuff, And it's a really interesting dynamic. And what happened in the game was, I thought Rideau got a little bit ball dominant, and so did Ben Thomas, because I think with about 4 minutes to go in the third quarter, he sat him down.
mm.
And he's playing like a guy who doesn't expect to be in the league next year, Rideau.
Okay. Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah,
I
yeah,
think he's
yeah.
playing like a guy who knows
Legacy.
he's got and also he's got bigger fish to fry. He doesn't
Yeah,
give up
yeah,
pissing people off.
yeah, yeah. Oh,
Uh,
right. I see, like that. Yeah,
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 I
yeah,
see that
yeah.
as well. Because the guys who go, there's the players who go around at this point of the season. They're looking for jobs, and they're trying to make themselves attractive to every coach in
Mm.
order to kind of big themselves
Keep
up
their options
in the job
open.
market, keep
Yeah,
their
yeah,
options
yeah,
open. Hey,
yeah,
coach, how you doing, coach?
yeah.
You always knew the ones who come over, shake my hand in March,
Yeah,
April, you know. But what I was saying was probably the last guy I could think of to talk as much as it would be Trey,
yeah,
Trey
yeah,
Moore,
yeah.
who
I
talked to
thought you'd
everybody about
go there.
everything.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm just going back through my head in relation to guards in particular. Um, Rundle's talked a bit, but
Yeah.
not to the degree that Trey did. But Rideau is just so into it in every
Mm,
which way that it's a really fine balancing act to make sure that he um, exacerbates the rest of his team as opposed to holding them down. If that makes any
yeah,
sense.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So he can't, the ball needs to move because those guys can play, Kristen can play, Shajwa can play, obviously Rai can play, and it's just getting that balance right. And I thought Rideau was just a little bit over engrossed in his own game as opposed to everybody else's in this game. In relation to Newcastle, well, they did what they won a game 105-90, and they've won a few
Mm.
games like that this year. I'd been happy if they'd won a game 90-75. I know they play fast. I
Yeah,
get
yeah,
that.
yeah,
But there's too many breakdowns. When they play defense, they're really good. But finding lineups that can play defense for minutes on end without kind of, you know, screen and roll disaster defense where two get drawn to the ball and they're meant to be switching and the guard doesn't switch and the bigs are there and they throw the ball to Ulf for a layup under the basket on his own because Austin hasn't rotated across. All that stuff. There's just too many lapses.
yeah. Mm.
And that's what holds them back. I mean, offensively, McGill was just in this game. McGill was supremely skilled, just
Mm.
supremely skilled. Some of the stuff he did in this game. But yeah, I just want to grab him around the neck and give him a shake.
Mm. Mm.
Um,
Austin with the first 10 points, part of a 13-3 run to start the second half to 57-49. And then the Eagles started the fourth quarter with an 8-2 run, and that was basically that. We
yeah,
were cutting a lot of the other two games in.
yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, two things. One, they got Austin going at the beginning of the third quarter they ran a couple of plays from. They got a curl from. He got a transition. He got a three, and he needs to be able to shoot the ball because, to be honest, at the moment he's almost been a non-shooter. He made a three
Mm,
in this game. He knocked down his foul shot. Of course, he had the old team thing going on as well because he played
yeah,
against.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then Delpeche came in and gave them a lot of offense. And that was he's actually again he's playing for he seems to me he's playing for a contract. His
Mm,
in March and April his performances certainly have picked up and he's more impactful.
mm,
Certainly offensively, so he gives them a little bit of offense at the rim, a little bit of rim running, bit of offensive rebounding, and if he finishes, so those two things kind of just gave Newcastle enough to kind of tidy up. But Cheshire was 7 of 34 from three. Cheshire were
yeah.
not in this game. I was a little bit surprised that some of them on court for as long as they were at the end. I was surprised we didn't see a bit of Greg Wild, given the situation with the league. You're just thinking with Aaron Rylands on somebody's foot, in the
Mm,
last 3 minutes, how are you going to feel? That's a
yeah.
hard thing as a coach to try and figure out. But I think I would have probably sat him down a little bit earlier. But that's not kind of Cheshire's way this year. Cheshire's way
No.
is to be in your face, which
Yeah.
is fair enough. It's done them well, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Keep playing, keep playing, keep playing, and keep going at teams. So yeah, it was one of those games, 105-90 to the home team in front of a full crowd. That kind of what keeps a baby all going, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. McGill 24, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Johnson 18.7 assists. Austin 16.7 rebounds, 8 assists. They also won the rebounding 47-37. Rideau 25 points, 12 assists, 6 rebounds. Rye 16 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists. Christian and Jack 14. You mentioned the 3-point shooting. They were also 14 of 21 from the free throw line.
Yeah, I mean, it is a change. It's also an interesting little matchup. They'll probably not see each other again, but it's an interesting matchup with those three guards who've all put up good numbers there against kind of the bigger Cheshire guards. Because
Mm,
Cheshire, so you've got to guard Austin. You've got to guard, Maceo Jack. That's hard because Austin's quicker than Maceo Jack. It's hard for Kristen. It's hard for Holden because they're 6'4", 6'5", 6'6" guys, and having to guard. It's a little bit like European games, having to guard Johnson, McGill, and Austin.
mm.
So Newcastle kind of won out that way, but as I say, that their offense isn't an issue.
Leicester Riders 89, Manchester Giants 94. We didn't see it, but we're assuming Kimball McKenzie was MVP of the league this year from the end of this night because he wasn't
Yeah,
playing.
yeah.
Leicester, I can tell you what happened. Leicester hit 13 in a row to lead 24-14. Walsh had 12 in an 18-2 run, 28-34. Manchester led by 15 at one stage, 45-60, but Thomas Holmes Allen threes down the stretch got Leicester close, but not close enough. And obviously, we were cutting in
Yeah.
a bit of this game, so I did see a little bit of it in real time. But every time I was commentating on it, Leicester were either missing a free throw or Manchester were getting an offensive rebound. That seemed to be the killer there. That and Manchester clearly, as we saw the following day, in loose mode.
I think job hunting. That's what
Job
I
hunting, yeah,
favoring.
yeah, yeah.
It doesn't half perk a professional player up when he realizes at the end of the game is the season's done and
Mm,
got to find a job for next year.
mm, mm.
I mean, there's all sorts of kind of things to take away from the result, but I hate doing that because I haven't seen the game,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's
yeah.
generally speculation, and I don't, this isn't about just us saying, oh, that's a bad loss for them and a great win for them. We'd like to give it a bit more detail than that. But the
It's
overall,
the sort of result that at the end of it you sort of go, they know what seat number they're booked on and what meal they've ordered. But then
yeah,
you see Manchester, when you actually see Manchester play the next day, you go, actually, if Manchester played like that yesterday, I sort of get it. But we just haven't seen that Manchester since the early stages of the season, so
yeah,
it's so out of context.
I think you're being generous to Manchester. I think the reality isn't just to summarise the next day's game as well. I think the reality is that Manchester came up against two of the least disciplined defensive teams in the league, and that allowed them I'm surprised that they won in Leicester because winning on the road is a thing. That's
Mm,
tough, right? And there, after about the middle of the second quarter in the game on the Saturday, I was pretty sure they were going to win, because they play chaos basketball.
Mm.
Now, the way you shut down chaos basketball is the opposite, diligence basketball.
I go back to my first point. No Kimball McKenzie.
No, Kimber McKenzie. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, exactly. Leadership, guarding people, that type of thing. And that is a big thing. That is a thing. Yeah, obviously, if you lose one, but you can't be at that point in the season in April, whereby losing one guy kills you to that degree. And also, they still gave up 94.
Well, yeah, no. I suppose it's no Kimball, and obviously, I think Connor played a couple of minutes in this
Yeah,
game, but
so
obviously, the fact he didn't play Sunday means he wasn't. Saturday, he wasn't right. So, there's a lot of.
point being, Dan, it's a game you grind out with the
Yeah,
defense.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Yeah,
they've not ground anything out with defense all year. So
that's a problem. And credit to Manchester. I'm not going to, I can't slag Manchester for 4 months straight and then not give them credit for actually showing up at the end of the season.
yeah.
So yeah, great for them. But then again, the corollary of that is, well, where have you been for the last 4 months? And which is why
Exactly. Yeah,
which is why I kind of come down more on the blaming the opposition.
yeah.
But you have to make plays, and they got comfortable making plays, and they win the game.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hope.
just on Friday night, though, I
Yeah.
mean, it's a pretty, to especially being Leicester and potentially Sheffield, which it ended up being, right? That's a series which home court advantage should really have something to be
Yeah.
for it, particularly Sheffield. You don't want to be playing Sheffield twice in Sheffield. And so from Leicester's perspective, it's a pretty
Terrible loss.
devastating loss.
Yeah.
It's a terrible loss.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we talked about it on last week as if it would never happen. So it's a terrible loss for us as well.
Yeah.
For getting that, because I didn't know McKenzie wasn't playing. But even so, I didn't even, I didn't know until I got back from the arena what the score was. And I texted you about midnight saying, WTF.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you'd been commentating on the other one. I was like, what happened there? But that's that. You got to play the game, so I throw the ball.
Holmes 20.6 rebounds, Allen 19, Thomas 18 points and 6 assists. They missed 10 free throws, 13 of 23. Walsh 24.6 rebounds, Lewis 23 points, 5 assists, Lee 17 points, 12 rebounds, 5 assists. They out rebounded Leicester 41-30. I got asked about Leicester's home losses. They've lost 4 in a row now at home. And that is the first time since 2018-19, but 2 of those were in FIBA Europe Cup. The last time they lost 4 domestic home games in a row was November, December 2007.
Is that Rob's first year?
No, it was before Rob.
3 pattern Austro. December 2007. I can't believe they ever lost 4 in a row to John Sanford. Jesus.
Yeah, no, was that Martin Ford? Was that?
Well, the advantage is when you know how high the roof is. I mean, dear me, there's about 2 points on its own.
Yeah.
If anybody doesn't know, Google the John Sanford.
Your mate was a guaranteed 2 of 9 from the 3-point line. Jeremy Hyatt.
Jeremy, oh yeah,
I guarantee he couldn't shoot in that building at all.
I remember walking into it with the first time. It would have been with Reggie Jackson. It was maybe my first year, maybe in 2009, 2010. And Reggie hadn't been there before. And Charles was walking in with Reggie saying, Reggie, you ain't ready for this. and Reggie says, what, is it like high school? And Charles said, man, middle school was better than this. Man, it's just really something like that. Wow, whatever. But yeah, John Sanford.
Great atmosphere though.
Great atmosphere.
Low roof kept the noise in.
Low roof and also, grey walls. But yeah, it was great. It was, don't knock it. I mean, it was a hard place to play, and it was a fun game when you were there.
Yeah.
I did web radio on the baseline from there once. I'm amazed we got a signal.
Yeah, I remember as well. Let's go to Saturday. Manchester 91, Newcastle 89. McGill 4 threes in the first 3 minutes, 14-9, and then Ward Hibbert hit some threes, and Newcastle before the end of the first quarter were 30 points to 17 ahead.
Yeah, 17. 17, and that's when Defoe was on the court. And this is what troubles me with Newcastle was. I mean, I'm not sure it was a great thing for them. I'm not necessarily sure it was a bad thing for them to lose this game. Actually, the way I think it's a bad thing to lose, and the way they lost was just what they've been all season. From playoff seedings, I think that they're a better matchup with Caledonia than they are with Sheffield. I think Sheffield will just throttle them and just pick them apart, whereas Caledonia are a little bit more kind of normal team, if that makes any sense. They've played Caledonia twice the last couple of weeks. The last few weeks, Green has beaten them both times, but basically he's beaten them in relatively close games on his own. And Newcastle haven't had a plan for him. Well, they've got a chance now. And the argument is, if you can manage to shut him down, you can shut. You might be close in the games. Whereas with Sheffield, I don't think there's one guy you can shut down. I don't think Newcastle can defend those teams. I think with a plan, I think they are limited in their defensive cognition to the point whereby they need to have a situation whereby they're playing against teams that they only got to shut one or two main guys, and then you got to make other guys do it. Whereas with Sheffield, everybody's moving the ball and it's different people all the time. I think Newcastle's heads just spin. So I don't think it's necessarily the worst loss in the world, but in the manner of the loss, it really was because, I mean, firstly, they haven't got a rotation at the moment. They haven't got a set rotation. In this game, Spencer played 7 or 8 minutes in the second quarter. Neighbour played 8 or 9 minutes as well. And that was in the minutes whereby the lead kind of diminished and they struggled to score the ball. Well, those guys haven't played, much. So expecting them to suddenly come in and contribute is difficult. And then you think, well, hang on, what does this mean for next week? Are they going to be in the rotation next week? Well, they weren't even in the rotation in the second half. So are they going to be in the rotation for next week? Who's going to play? Who's coming off the bench? Who's playing with who? And at the moment, I don't see that with them. I just see kind of, they've got 10 players and I see bodies being thrown out there. Sometimes, Neighbour's playing at the 4. Sometimes he plays a few minutes at the 5. Spencer playing the forwards. Bo Tibbetts back in there. It's just all very kind of equal opportunity, and I don't see the set rotations that you need. This is why the Green thing at Bristol really interested us so much, because you need your rotations for the playoffs. Who's playing when, and the guys need who's playing with each other. You didn't see that with Newcastle. And then what happened was, I mean, to be honest, McGill making 4 threes early on is not the best thing for that team because they get loose, they get happy.
4 of 4, and then the next time I checked it, I think it was at halftime. He was 4 of 12.
Yeah, and it's not so far. He shoots a couple of bad shots and maybe doesn't get a couple to run, but the ones but he's going to be shooting 17, 18 times a game with that team. But it's what it does to them when they're loose and the defense stops. That's the problem. The defense give up too many easy stuff defense. And in the second half in this game, they utterly failed to guard Nick Lewis in any logical way.
So before we get to that, Borsier and Lee hit threes to top and tail the 14-2 run in the second quarter. 33, 37.
They did not respect Borsier a jot.
No.
They didn't put a hand up on his shot. He's a professional player. He might not have made a shot for 2 months. He's a professional player playing possibly certainly his last game of the season, possibly his last game as a pro. You never know, right? And he can play, and you can't just stand there and let him do what he wants. And that's
I believe he's going to the CBL. So
CBL, okay, well, fair enough. Yeah. But it's a question of diligence and respect on people, and they didn't. And it's a mental thing. That's not a physical thing. It's like, okay, he made a shot. I made 3 already. He made a shot. Fine. I'll make the next one. But on the road, you can't play like that against anyone.
So Eagles got back up in the third quarter, and then Lewis and Stampley were hitting shots. Giants got back in front, 70-65. McGill then got Newcastle back ahead, 77-85, less than 4 minutes to go. But Lewis and 1, Stampley 3 got them back, and then 2:16 to go. Lee ties it, 85 points apiece after 7 unanswered points.
Yeah, I mean, it's slightly less consequential, but they played a game last year where they were up 10 against Manchester. There were about 3 minutes to go in that gym, and they couldn't hold on. I don't know if you remember. Cohen dribbled one, didn't get over half court with the ball once, and Dirk made a couple of threes, and and it was almost deja vu. The inability to get any form of stops. I'm afraid. I think you ended up going with the Delpeche Defoe lineup again in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, you did.
you know, it's like, okay, but are we going to be running that in the playoffs? Is that something that's going to stick? I think I understand why I did it, because the Pesh was playing well and you need to fall on the court
Mm,
enough to join them all together. But you know, is it sustainable in the long run? And particularly when you put Austin out there with him, because then you may as well, you know, your spacing is just disappeared altogether then.
mm,
So you're hoping that your guards are going to make a play. And they didn't guard, they couldn't get stops, and they didn't guard Lewis, and Lewis was having a kind of a the season's over. I'm happy
yeah, the
to get in the
season
game.
over game, wasn't it?
It's
Yeah,
over
yeah,
game.
yeah,
Yeah, I can
yeah,
do it. I
yeah,
want nobody. I
yeah,
don't have to worry about talking with these guys. I
yeah,
don't have to worry about anything after this.
yeah, yeah,
I can just go out and ball. What's the worst that's going to happen? I'm
yeah,
going to what's the worst, you know?
yeah.
So and he made shots. Credit to
So Ward Hibbert missed the three. Ball goes out of bounds for an Eagles possession. 156 to go. Ward Hibbert to the rim, 85-87. 131 to go. Lewis on the shot clock buzzer ties the game, 87-87. 114 to go. An offensive foul on McGill. 54 seconds to go. Lewis at the elbow,
I thought that was a bad
89-87.
call, mind. I'll be honest.
The offensive
From
foul.
McGill.
Mm,
Yeah, because it was made by the ref who literally couldn't, who was blinded by the defensive player. It was, I think it was for a push off
mm,
as McGill turns the corner. And the ref who called it had the defensive player between him and McGill. So there's no way in the world he could have seen what contact there was. Now, I don't think there was much contact, but you couldn't get a great angle on our side either. But it was more that, you know, it's kind of, that's the call you're making now when, you know, that should be a baseline ref's call who's looking at it coming
mm,
on.
mm,
And then you can see the arm go out. So I thought that was, I thought they got a tough break, but they hadn't earned any breaks at that point.
mm.
So, you know, that's what happens on the road.
Ward Hibbert missed a three. Johnson got the offensive rebound. McGill in the key off the glass. 32 seconds to go. Scores tied. And then 10.9 seconds to go. Defoe fouls Lewis,
Yeah.
which, given Borsier makes a three on the pass, was probably
Yeah.
not a bad foul as a result. So Lewis goes to the free throw line instead,
That
and
was a
it's
strong, even that was a strong side pass. You know, that was a
mm,
pass. He drove
yeah,
down the
yeah.
right. It's like that can't be open. You
No,
know,
it
you
was
know
wide open as well.
why?
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
that cannot be open at that point. How's Borussia get open that way?
Mhm.
Um, but go on, yeah.
91-89 after the two free throws. Timeout advanced the ball. It sounded in the timeout like Mark said we go at 6 or 7 seconds, and they went at 4. And the problem with that is by the time Austin got the ball and put it in, the buzzer had sounded.
I thought it was too much detail.
Mm,
But you know, too much. I think the suggestion was Darius comes and sets the screen at six
mm,
seconds. Well, by the time Darius has run away to come back, you know, it's 4 seconds. You know,
mm,
I think it was too much. It's like, you know, basically give him the ball, you set a screen, you make a play.
mm,
That's the play. You know, when you're down two, you're not worried about what's left on the clock. You need a score,
mm,
and you need a chance of an offensive rebound to get that second score. You know, you're not trying to score right on the buzzer to tie the game. You need to score and then see where that takes you. So, you know, for me, that has to be a quick hitting play, and the quick hitting players get the ball to Johnson, see if he can get in the lane, see if he can get fouled. Don't, you know, none of this kind of Johnson dribbling the ball on the spot,
mm,
whereby he's not great dribbling on the spot because he's an athletic, you know, north-south guy.
mm,
So he's got to start by dribbling on the spot, waiting for someone to come and set a screen. He's
mm,
got to start from zero. He doesn't have a running start. And so I just thought I thought it was just indicative of kind of the whole game that they played, which was um, lacking in any form of necessary professional discipline to win the game on the road. I just thought, you know, I just thought no, they played the night before, and they travelled, but Manchester played the night before they travelled back. You know, that's a game Newcastle really had to win for their own benefit as opposed to anything else. The
mm,
game they absolutely should have won, with a bit of defensive diligence. Um, Probably not as impactful a loss as Leicester's loss in relation to the home court, because Newcastle wouldn't have got home court anyway.
mm.
I say I think they're better going north and south. But still, just in the end of what I think you've got the stat, isn't it? 18-18.
Yep, 18-18, 9-9 home and away.
Mediocrity,
It's
definitely
it's the
mediocrity.
it's the 500. It's this 500.
But yeah, exactly. You know, and that's probably not far off. And of course, yet another proof of the fact that you get into a scoring race on the road,
Mm,
you're gonna
home
lose.
team wins.
Home team wins.
Uh,
No.
Lewis 29 points, 9 assists. Lee 20 points, 10 rebounds. Stampley 15 points, 12 rebounds. McGill 24.7 rebounds, 4 assists. Ward Hibbert 18 points, and Delpesh 9. So could we get the hat trick of chaos? Not quite, but
Not quite,
close.
but close.
Sheffield Sharks 98, Plymouth City Patriots 92 after overtime. Green and Wiley were back, although Green didn't play and Wiley didn't come on till the middle of the third quarter. Cook only played a couple of minutes. They said before the game he was a doubt, and he never came back on. Nixon turned an ankle fairly early on as well, so he only played 8 minutes 51 seconds. So they were a couple of guys down effectively. Copeland, Atwood, Hart hitting shots early on. Plymouth looked up for it. They looked for it. Looked like a team that was, last game of the season. Let's go for it, boys. They had a decent away following loudly behind them.
Yeah, when
Behind the bench, it was good.
they've kept playing, and
Yeah.
those the guys who played, as we said before, are pros. The people who maybe weren't there, maybe not
Mm,
quite so professional.
mm,
And I think they like playing with each other.
mm,
Um, they just struggle. I mean, they're just the problem is you get a nice tight group. You benefit in team spirit, you benefit in cohesion, but you lose out in depth and you lose out in the ability to play over 40 minutes and win games. So it's a constant battle. Um, I only really kind of picked up this game in the third quarter because I wasn't watching it live. Didn't watch much of the
So,
first.
so, so basically, it was close, but Plymouth led for most of it until the third quarter. Sheffield went on a 12-2 run, which had them five up. Wiley then came into the game, and he seemed to want to atone for his
Yeah,
part in the error. We're assuming he was the least culpable as he got on court,
yeah.
and it set up a big finish.
Yeah, I mean, it is a punishment and a half, that, isn't it? Driving
Yeah.
a Plymouth to Sheffield at the end of the season, don't get to play. I mean, yeah,
Mm.
you get on the, you might not make the plane, which is a 45-minute trip, but you're gonna make
Sit
the
on
bus,
the
which is 6
bus.
hours. Good luck. Um, yeah, I mean, that's right. He's been an interesting guy Wiley all this season because he's played with energy, he's played with athleticism. You don't often know precisely what his game is. He's not really a three-point shooter. He likes to shoot the mid-range off the dribble. He can be quite athletic, slashing, but he doesn't catch the ball in the perimeter. So he doesn't really kind of fit any stereotype. But he has kind of kept going over the course of the year when he's managed to make it to the gym.
Mm.
And Sheffield, the impression I got from watching Sheffield in the fourth quarter of this game was this was a game that they thought they were going to win.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That they wanted to win, but they weren't putting themselves right out there to win.
Mm. I was a little surprised actually because I thought with Leicester losing and obviously
Yeah,
Newcastle lost that by that point it didn't really matter that one to
yeah.
Sheffield, but the home court advantage, as you say, they're really
Yeah, but
putting
then
it
you
there.
lose. It's whatever the organization thinks, it's in the players' minds. We're
Yeah, yeah,
playoffs
yeah,
next week.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And the one thing that we've probably taken away, we've not really thought about is, the devil may care attitude of teams that aren't playing next week as opposed to the
exactly. Yeah, no, that
that
is
are.
that is the thing, and also the fact that Cook goes out after 2 minutes and Nixon
Yeah.
goes out after 9 minutes, particularly the Nixon one. Everybody else is going, oh, I don't want to roll my ankle before then.
And also the question is if it was a playoff game, would he be playing? Probably.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just like, if it's a playoff game, would Mackenzie be playing? Yeah, you're darn right, he would have been playing.
No,
No. All right,
no,
okay.
no.
Oh, is it that bad? All right,
No,
okay.
no, no, no. I don't know what's public, but
No,
it'll
okay,
come
my bad.
out. It'll come out. It'll
It's
come
come
out
out then.
shortly, and he wouldn't have played.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, but you get the point I'm making.
Mm.
Yeah. Which is basically, teams play differently in the playoffs with different levels of aggression than they do in the
Yeah,
regular
yeah,
season.
yeah.
Point. Um,
I think
uh,
Kimball will play next week. By the
yeah,
way,
all right,
yeah.
so that's fair enough. Um, well, anyway, leave that and we'll see what happens.
Mm.
So yeah, so then we get to the fourth
So
quarter and
let's go through the end. 2 minutes to go, 2:11 to go. Wiley with the tough shot, 81 points apiece. Pipkins then misses. Atwood from the elbow, 124 to go. They're up to 81-83. 103 to go. Nearly a turnover, but Pipkins was able to recover it. Takes it to rim. Maybe a slightly generous call,
I
but
thought it was
he.
an awful call. I think PJ's look on PJ's face was like, what? And I so exactly. I thought it was an awful call. I thought there was absolutely nothing there when you watched it in the replay as
Yeah.
well. You've got to ref the defender, so you've got to look at the defender, not the attacking player. And I was watching both of them, Dusher and whoever the guy was on the helmet, I mean Atwood, and neither of them I could see got anywhere near him.
Mm.
Unless there was something that angle didn't give us. I thought to call that, he basically called it when he fell over.
Mm.
So I thought that was I thought Plymouth got a couple of possibly slightly unfortunate breaks in this game actually near the end.
So Wiley misses a tough shot with 32 seconds to go.
Yeah.
Green misses a three with 14 seconds to
Just on
go.
that one though, on Wiley's shot, the ball got rotated to Atwood, and Atwood was wide open for a three. Wide open, and he
Yeah,
didn't.
yeah. No.
He waited and he threw it to Wiley. And I'm thinking, and he waited and he threw it in the post. And giving the ball to Wiley in the post, not a bad thing.
Yeah,
But I want Atwood to shoot that shot. It's the last game of the season. You're wide open. You're the best scorer on the team. I
yeah,
need to do that shot. In the end, he ends up getting a tougher shot at the end.
yeah. And then Atwood on the buzzer. It was not an easy shot, but him from 16 feet would have signed off Plymouth season there with a game winner
It
from
would have.
this.
It wasn't. It was a little. He's a comfort zone guy. He gets
Yeah.
when he rises up in his comfort space and zone and balance. He's automatic.
Mm,
He's not kind of one of these kind of throw it over your shoulder and it'll go in guys, if that makes
mm.
any sense.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
make
yeah.
circus shots, he just makes solid sound fundamental plays.
Mm.
So that was a bit circusy. He was a little bit off balance, a little bit to his right, and he prefers to go to his left a little bit, to lean to his left when he's shooting. But yeah, that was a shot, wasn't it? Let's be honest.
Yeah, that was their shot. In overtime, I always felt like Sheffield were going to get there. To be fair, Plymouth hit a couple of late threes. Copeland and Atwood did hit one, but Ramsey and Green sealed it from the free throw line in the last couple of seconds. But as I say,
I thought Wiley got a
it
bit
looked
of
like the game was over at that point.
It did. I thought Wiley got fouled on the drive when he got his technical mind.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I thought, that's what I said. I thought they missed it. They got kind of hosed a little bit, I thought, at the end. But that's a basketball gods.
Yeah. Green, 22 points, 14 rebounds. Nichols, 17. Ramsey, 15. Atwood, 14 of 22, 30 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. Copeland, 15. Copeland, 17. Wiley, 15 points, 9 rebounds in 20 minutes.
Yeah, as I say, there's a lot to like about him. I think he's just a little bit. I don't know if he's a rookie, but he's just he's a British basketball league kind of American to do dumb things.
Yeah. Let's go to Sunday. Surrey Scorchers 88, Leicester Riders 94. No Kimball. Lowell also out for this one. Connor was dressed but didn't play. Connor Washington. Justin Robinson was still out for Surrey. 3-point shootout early in this one. Allen with an and one as well. Cooper at one end. 18-19 inside.
Yeah, I thought it was a game of horse, to be honest. It was like a wreck
Yeah.
game, back and forwards. I mean, Alan's shooting threes, which we know he's incredibly good at, particularly off his own dribble. Doesn't shoot many off the catch. He sets himself up and knocks them down with a limitless range. Cooper's just finding space in the defense without, I think you
It
said a lot.
wasn't hard, to be
Well,
fair.
that's the point. Cooper just coming off a curl and one catch, and he's turned and squared up, and he's shooting a three.
Yeah.
No, I remember just thinking, actually, I remember thinking this is actually better for Leicester because of where Surrey's depth was in relation to the players. Surrey had less offense than Leicester did, and I think the game basically turned on about 5 or 6 possessions where Surrey had the younger guys in, and they couldn't quite execute and couldn't quite finish shots that the Leicester guys did, because otherwise it was another 95-94 game. So Alan was supernova in the first half. I think if you're gonna let him dribble the ball in 2 or 3 at this point of the season, then you get what you deserve. He's a guy you've almost got to play on the side of him, not in front of him. You got to be on the side of him to say you're going to have to dribble past me, and then you deal with the kind of the step backs and all that type of stuff. And Thomas was really good as well. Again, Thomas has kind of bullied Mohammed in that matchup all season. And without Wang as well, as I say, it takes so much of their athleticism away. It takes the extra bit, and Robinson's not playing. And I think we found out what Surrey thought about this game when Lawrence didn't play in the second half.
Yeah. Leicester got up 8. Surrey hit 7 in a row, and then in the second quarter hit another 8 in a row, take the lead. They were 50-38 just before half time, and at that point, I was thinking they could land a knockout blow here, but Allen hit 10 points in a minute to make
Yeah,
it a 2-point game.
yeah, and I don't think Surrey had 100 in them in this game, even when
Mm,
they had 50. You
mm,
know, and Leicester definitely did have 100 in them because they've got, three or four guys. You would say that Allen, obviously, Thomas certainly, and
Holmes struggled
Holmes struggled.
scoring early on, but he did
You
make a
think
few
Holmes is
plays
going to
at the
go,
end.
and in fact,
Yeah,
it
it
was
was
Russell.
Russell. Yeah,
Russell
yeah,
stepped
yeah,
up and being the
yeah,
third scorer. But then you look at Surrey, and it was like Gooden was pulling shots out.
mm,
But after Gooden, you're relying on Steele, who's averaging 9 a game.
mm,
You're relying on Cooper, who's averaging probably 9 a game, and Jameson to rebound the basketball. And I just didn't see. And to be fair, it's a great game for them because Parkinson gets to play, and he did all
mm,
right.
mm,
And um, Bailey's obviously playing and is
mm,
actually acquitted himself pretty well for his first year in the league. As a guy who's undersized playing that position against American pros, he's done okay.
mm,
But it's just, tough when, they throw the ball to Ado in the post, Ado is going to score. They throw the ball
mm,
to Bailey in the post, Bailey's not going to score.
mm.
Or not as often.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's not something they do. So Leicester just had more options, I thought. Um, and that's kind
10-0
of
run early in the third quarter, but Leicester had 56 60, which, bearing in mind they were 50-38 down.
yeah.
Russell then helped Leicester to get up 7. They couldn't quite put them away until threes from Russell and Allen made it 81-90, and that was
Yeah,
basically.
Russell's interesting. Obviously, he still doesn't look in great shape. He's been injured much of the year, so you kind of understand that a little bit. The British point guard did play for Billy Mims in America, put up big numbers in Division Two. Watching his game, and I've really seen enough of his game to see it up to now. Watching that game, it seemed to me that he's probably best described as a combo as opposed to a
Mm,
point.
yeah, yeah,
A couple of
definitely.
times Alan was stood there on the wing saying, "Give me the ball." He's made 6 in a row, and even then Russell was shooting it. So that's an interesting one because just moving things forward for a little bit. Because, and the other thing was interesting that the kind of starting Shelton's disappeared, and they're back to starting Walker again.
Mm,
So that experiment's been rather dumped. But moving this all forward, kind of 3 months, which is when the business end of the recruitment is. Um, British players really have a disproportionate value now
mm,
with the whole 6 American. You could trace back Cheshire's success this year to the fact that Rice being the best
mm,
outside of London, being the best British player in the league.
mm,
And played like a dominant American at times.
mm,
And the reason it doesn't happen very often is because generally those British players who are at that level are offered, they're in Europe
mm,
earning more. So when Mark picked his GB team, 9 out of 10 of them are in Europe.
mm,
Kwasi Yeboah is the 3 man. So you're not going to get those guys unless
mm,
you've got London's money, or maybe Mr. Timoney opens his checkbook a bit more. The reality is no one's going to get them in this league. So then there's only a kind of a coterie of players, of British qualified players, who are both good enough to help you win in the league, but also not
not
quite
too
good
good.
enough
Yeah,
to be too expensive.
yeah, yeah.
So what has underpinned the two dynasties of my time,
Mm,
right, is firstly Andrew Bridge and Darius Defoe at Newcastle,
yeah, yeah.
right, and secondly Connor Washington, Jamel Anderson, and probably just those two at Leicester,
Mm, mm.
right? And then obviously you're putting guys like Drew Sullivan around them. I'm not
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Tom and people like that,
Tomo,
but
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
talking about the guys that you have produced to become exceptional, to become winning British players.
Mm,
They are worth their weight in gold.
yeah, yeah.
So against that, there are multiple British guys who come back from college, thought they were better than they
Yeah,
are, stayed in the
yeah,
league
yeah,
a year and not being as good as they need to be and flamed
yeah,
out, not
yeah,
have
yeah,
discipline for
yeah.
it.
Could name a dozen, I
And
think.
part of that is environment, and part of that is mentality in relation to those
Mm,
players, right? So where I started this kind of tangent, was Stefan Russell. He's one of them. Is he one of them? and what Leicester have to do with him and what the rest of the league will, I'm sure, also be doing with him is looking at him and saying, well, he's just dropped 20 on Surrey in that game.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
he going to be a piece?
yeah,
Like they've tried to do with Blake Bowman to a certain degree, and that
yeah,
hasn't quite worked out. But is he going to be a piece who can be here in 3-4 years' time and can help us win? Because there's no point having those guys there if they're not helping you win.
yeah, yeah,
We
exactly.
always got a ton of stick for not signing young British guys. And I looked around and said, we've signed all of them. They just weren't helping us win.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's tough because the standards and the levels are different.
Mm,
So, watching him, even Klavinskas for
mm,
Surrey, he's another one. Where's his path going to be? Is he going to be in America? Okasimi Surrey is another one. Then you've got the guys who are coming back from college this year.
mm.
And it's quite
Good win at
easy.
Manchester.
Yeah, good win at Manchester, and obviously you see what Caledonia's done with Fraser Malcolm becoming a
Yeah,
pro
yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So Fraser Malcolm and Johnny Bunyan was Caledonia,
Mm,
and Gareth before that.
mm.
So there's a real marketplace development for those players. It only goes so far,
Yeah, yeah.
so far, because beyond that the teams can't afford it. But everyone's looking. Don't think everyone's not looking. All these
No,
teams
no,
looking
yeah, yeah.
around to see who, Russell was the first time today. In this game, Russell showed himself and said, oh, actually, maybe there's something there.
Mm,
Because up until now, I haven't really seen little bits, but nothing which, in a to be fair, dysfunctional team outside of Mackenzie, nothing which really kind of grabbed you. And it's relevant because you look at Leicester and you have to think that, Connor's not playing, and it'd be a
mm,
surprise on what I see. And I don't know anything, I don't speak to anybody about it. Either his body gets better or he's not going to be there next year. They're going
mm,
to, it's tough. He's just not played. And he's not played because of his talent level, you know. So, and Mo Walker the same. Mo
mm.
Walker has struggled. So Leicester are gonna have to look to kind of rejuvenate a little bit, I think. And so a performance like that from Russell is an interesting one because it gives Rob a decision to make in relation to who those guys are going to be. And Surrey are already down that path, obviously, because they've got Lloyd's connections in London as well.
Yeah. Gooden 22, Mohammed 14, Cooper 14, Allen 30.6 rebounds, 4 assists, 11 of 22 shooting. Russell 20 points, 7 of 10 shooting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thomas was also 7 of 10 for 17 points and 6 rebounds. So let's go to the final game. Cheshire Phoenix 92, London Lions 105. No Stevens still, no Nelson, no Grantham as well. Olasheni, Matt Morgan bossing it early. London easily out to a 6-15 lead. Kristen came in, hit some threes, kept Cheshire in it, but they were still 17-31 down after 8 minutes. And should we just cut to the chase? The Cheshire
Yeah,
made enough
I mean,
shots to keep
here's
to
the
it, and
thing,
then
Dan,
we,
right? Here's the thing,
yeah,
Dan. I didn't watch this game because I couldn't be.
okay,
And then I found
okay.
out there was all sorts of stuff going on.
Oh, you missed a classic,
Oh
mate.
no,
This
I
was
watched
real.
it back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I watched it back once I found
Okay.
out.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm doing this bottom bit, but of course, it was a little bit naive of me because there's history,
Yeah, they haven't
right?
played since the trophy final.
Well, not only of it, did not play. I'm playing in London. Didn't play a game in London, did they not?
No, no.
Well, not only that, it's not just what happens on the court in the final.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
afterwards. It's
yeah,
the
yeah,
comment
yeah,
about London's got no fans, and
and
Jordan Taylor going on Instagram and
yeah,
saying need to learn to win with class
yeah,
and all
yeah.
that stuff. And then you've got, as I say, you've got the bolshiest version of Rideau
Mm,
imaginable at this point in
mm,
time. Playing with enough swagger to whatever swagger does. I don't know.
yeah, yeah. To
Um,
fill a big
and
swagger thing.
oh, big swag, lots of swag
Yeah,
going
yeah,
on there.
yeah,
And you've got London, who are a bunch of proud guys,
mm,
I think you would say.
mm.
And to be fair to London this year, they really haven't been front runners insofar as the way that when they've won games, they've just won games and walked out the gym.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
They
yeah,
haven't been kind of waving in people's faces,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's always been a little bit. They've got kind of bigger fish to fry with Europe, but
yeah.
primarily they've basically
They
just.
don't have an Isaiah Reese type person,
No, they
do they?
don't. No, I remember reading. Yeah. Where did he end up in Russia? Didn't he?
Russia is still there.
Still in Russia? Is he?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
God, that's a player. That's a person at the half who
yeah,
wants to play in Russia at
yeah,
this
yeah.
time in the
Yeah.
world.
Middle of Russia as
Um,
well. It's not even. It's like in the middle of nowhere.
yeah, I think Naaman Wright was over there as well,
Mm,
you know. So anyway, but no, they've generally just come in, took care of business, respected the people they're playing against, got out and won, and not
mm,
been an issue. Now, obviously, they got absolutely bitten in the trophy
mm,
final, and Cheshire quite deservedly beat them, and London looked discombobulated, and as I say, you know, short of a few pennies at that point. But since then, they've just handled business, and they've got a better team because they've got Nawaba integrated, they've got Decker and all of that stuff. So they've not walked into any team like Cheshire though.
mm,
And what I mean by that is they've not walked into any team with that degree of swag,
mm,
in that degree of and it's primarily Rideau and White.
mm.
You know, having watched them on Friday night, it is primarily Rideau and White
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
the other guys, the rookies, you know, they're kind of more congregated around Rye and thinking things through. You know, Stevens is a calm guy. Christian hasn't put a foot out of line. Jack is just, you know, just a silent killer, just stands there, shoots the basketball, you know, seems to be a really solid guy. But you know, Riddle and White are their kind of instigators and they're emotional leaders.
Mm.
And they're not taking the backward step.
No,
In fact, they're taking a few forward steps.
they are. Yeah.
You know, that's the reality of it. And that forward steps involves, you know, a bit of talking as well. And as I say, you know, Rideau got managed to get technical at half time, you know, and on Friday night. And so when Cheshire come back, which they're going to do because they're in their own gym and you know they're up for this game, London at that point rotating their bench a little bit. A few guys get a little bit antsy, and then obviously we have
We have
Tack.
the slap, yeah. So Philip ended up on the floor. Rideau seemingly tried to help him up. I'm sure, offering a few words along the way.
That's the thing. I don't know. I couldn't quite see. I mean, it was a weird thing because the code generally is that you get helped up by your own team. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
you know, I know Fab always used to frown on any of our guys trying to help somebody else up. You know, it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
no, hey, we don't pick them up; they pick themselves up. You know,
The
and
interesting thing is, and I don't think I don't, you might not have had time to watch it, but Derek was obviously
I did see
on
it,
the
but I didn't have the sound
baseline.
on. Yeah,
And I turned the volume up really loud because he's
yeah,
obviously very close to it. It's hard to hear anything in
yeah,
particular from Rideau at that point.
yeah. I
Uh,
didn't see anything either, but I'm not
yeah,
sure what. I don't know if Philip went to take his hand and then realized it was Rideau and said, "Oh, I ain't doing that."
yeah, yeah,
Then pulled it away, and then it was like Rideau was like, "What?" And
yeah.
then you know, and then Philip decided,
And for anybody who hasn't seen it, what happens is Nawaba runs in and helps him up,
yeah,
and Philip is sort of standing there with his hand there. It's
yeah,
almost like a game, like I
yeah,
can slap you, sort of
yeah,
thing. And then Rideau sort of just stood there, and he gives him a little slap round the cheek. And
little tap on the
to be
cheek. Yeah,
fair, two referees were in perfect spot to see and disqualified him. Rideau got a technical for his for presumably for something he said, but actually I was quite impressed that Rideau didn't respond to the slap because
oh,
normally if
I
somebody
think
gets slapped
look,
like that, there's a big pushback and a
no,
bit
here's
of a
the thing, right?
melee.
Here's the thing about Rideau, which is really intrigues me about him, right? You know, describe him as kind of an instigator and a
Mm,
talker and all that stuff, but he's not crazy,
no,
right? He's not crazy. He's not nuts. And that sounds a really pejorative thing to say. Players are crazy. What I'm saying is he has a head on his shoulders as well.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Everything he does is about. He's a bit Crandall-esque like that.
Mm,
Everything is, you know, he's a entirely different form of player,
mm,
but everything he does is, I think, is calculated.
mm.
Um,
But even Crandall slapped somebody in Germany last year. Was it last year, year before? Whatever.
yeah, but yeah, true, but yeah, I think yeah, okay, fair enough. Maybe
Yeah,
Crandall's,
yeah, yeah.
but I
But
always,
but but to be fair, like there were London didn't back away from any screens on Rideau. It was the old man and ball in football.
yeah, oh yeah,
He seemed to be getting the treatment to me
yeah,
watching that,
yeah,
and
yeah.
and and he reasonably well held his nerve in through
Oh,
all of
that's it.
that.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
do, and I've talked quite a lot about him in this kind of show tonight.
Mm,
I'm not down on him.
mm,
I'm not down on him anyway. You know,
mm,
he's elevated his game over the past 3 months. He's become the leader of that team. He plays with a physicality, and he plays like he gives a damn,
Mm,
which is, kind of important.
mm,
I think probably more important than people think. And it's just the balance with him, and it's actually nice to see a little bit of not aggro, but just a little
mm.
bit of kind of mano stuff, because
Yeah, yeah.
all the stuff that we watch is pretty anodyne smiley stuff.
Well,
Newcastle,
I'll be honest. I thought this game was going to be a bit anodyne, whatever, because who cares? It doesn't matter,
uh,
blah blah blah. But there was an edge to this game that belied the fact that it meant nothing at the
mm,
end of the season.
yeah, I know it's an interesting one, that, because generally I was always big picture, and my big picture is don't get hurt. Let's get ready for the games that matter. Nobody remember.
And
Nobody
don't get disqualified where you may
get
or may not got
disqualified.
get a
Yeah,
ban.
no one is bothered about. Um, no one's going to remember the score in this game
Mm,
in 3 weeks' time.
mm,
They're going to remember who's lifting the trophy.
yeah.
And so you can kind of get into that mentality of, every bit it matters, and you see the wood but you don't see the trees, so you
Mm,
see the trees but you don't see the wood, whichever one it is. So I was always, a little bit like Rob and Fab were, which was just sit the guys down. We ain't getting hurt.
mm,
We had slightly older teams, to be fair, so it was like, you're not going to put them out there for meaningless games when they've already won things. And London are resting some guys as well, but I like the competitive element of it.
mm,
I love the bit at the end. It's great.
mm. So let's just run through the rest of the game before we get to the end. White and Shargwar hitting threes. After that, actually, Nick's sort of went up
Yeah.
and they got 5 points ahead. Halftime, my favorite stat was they were 5 of 11 from two and 14 of 25 from three.
Cheshire.
Yeah, Cheshire.
Yeah, I mean, that's it, isn't it? I mean, that's kind of playing with what's called reckless abandon.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah,
remarkable shot.
yeah.
But it's also indicative of London not playing not playing the first half at 100%.
Mm,
Because if you're playing the first half 100%, they don't get 25 threes off if
mm,
you're London.
mm.
And what happened was, they scored, 56 points in the first half and 30 odd in the second?
Yeah, 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 yeah. White and Rideau pushed it to 8. London then scored 12 in a row, 64-68. And then Decker and Olasheni part of an 11-0 run, 68-79. So in essence, that was 64-56 to 68-79, 23-4. Chargwell, Christian, White hit threes. They weren't going away, but Rideau fouled out with 8 minutes to go, and London in the end were reasonably comfortable down the stretch.
Yeah, and how many threes did Cheshire make, and they still lost
Uh,
by?
Cheshire ended up 19 of 39 from three and 10 of 32 from two.
There you go. So they lost on Friday when they only made 7 threes against Newcastle, and then they made 19 against London. How many points did they end up with? Did we got that?
92.
92. So 56 in the first half, 36 in the second half.
Mm.
I just thought London's defense picked up and London played. London took the challenge, to be fair.
Mm.
They took the challenge, which is
Mm.
credit to them.
And then a little exchange of
Oh
something
man,
or
there
other
should
at
be a
the
wide angle camera on the handshakes. I don't want any after a game of that. I don't want any close up cameras on anybody. I want a wide
player of
angle
the
camera.
game. We've got to do player of
Oh,
the
don't even
game.
don't do player of the game. You look for aggro first.
Mm,
The handshakes are where all sorts of stuff happens.
mm,
And even, you just want, even, different people have different ways of doing it. I mean, you look at, Rob, for instance. Rob's always first one over there shaking hands. Ben Thomas, he's always at the back of the line, last one shaking hands.
mm,
Everybody has their own different way. And then you're looking for guys who like each other, guys who've been maybe in the all-star team
mm,
together. You're looking for who gets the dap, who gets a little hug, who gets the arm on the shoulder, who gets the whatever. And then you get who gets the verbals,
mm.
and
There was one in the Leicester Surrey line where I don't even know who it was, but we had the camera on like 3 or 4 of the Leicester players, and they were just sort of standing there because whoever was in front was giving a big hug to somebody or other, and they're like, "Come on, we don't even know who this
oh,
person is."
Yeah, and so yeah, producers, directors, wide angle cameras on the handshake. It does not it only I mean, if there's nothing going on, you'll see straight away. But after a game like that, in that environment, there's something going on. So you make sure you catch it. Anyway, so what appears to have gone on is that Skylar's taken exception by the looks of it to something that's been said or something or a response to whatever he said. And then there's kind of then it's the whole the melee of no one doing particularly much type of thing.
Yeah.
Basically,
That's exactly it.
everybody full of righteous indignation,
Yeah.
which is all, to be frank.
Yeah, and everybody going, I want to see these two play again.
I want to see these two play again, but ultimately, it's like so so what?
Yeah.
In my view, I I've been on Twitter a little bit. I mean, I'm just there is nothing which irritates me or pains me more than the basketball morality play.
Yeah.
Oh, that guy said something nasty to me, or that guy did that, or he did that. At the end of the day, the refs are there to enforce what happens.
Yeah.
Philip disciplined and he hit him and he tapped him in the chin, so he
Yeah.
gets disqualified. That's what happens.
Mm.
Rideau didn't. Rideau doesn't get disqualified. Well done, Rideau. If something happens in the line afterwards, let the players can sort it out.
Mm.
There is nobody in this sport is entirely good. Nobody in this sport is entirely bad.
Mm.
It's certainly the BBL. Everybody has their peccadillos. You've seen you've seen basically half the coaches in the league get thrown out in the past in the past 4 weeks, and probably and Andreas get as close as you can imagine to being thrown out. And that doesn't mean they're all idiots or they're all going off it or they're all bad people or whatever. It just means that that's professional sport. It's a sanction that comes with the game. The only relevance it has is whether you win or not whether this is why the whole I get the whole signing autographs and smiley faces with the kids and all of that stuff. Yeah, but you can do that after you've been competing like hell on the court. And sometimes I think we lose track of that a little bit. And the final thing is, again, this league needs to improve on the in arena stuff that goes on. At the end of that game, there should not be other people on the court. There shouldn't be somebody talking to Youngblood from Cheshire. That just shouldn't be happening. Everybody should. There should be there should be security there. If we're going to play in smaller gyms, and basically all the gyms are small. Caledonia, Newcastle, even though a lot of people, it's still small. You're still 2 steps away from the court.
Yeah.
In the front row, so that counts as small.
Half a step if you're on the front row at Newcastle, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's baseline seating, to be fair, that's the way all the way around the world.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, in the NBA, they show you the seats on the bench, mate.
Absolutely, yeah. It's crazy. I couldn't imagine that. So that's fine. But if you're going to do that, the playing area has to be sacrosanct, not just during the game. It has to be before and after. And there has to be safe spaces. And now, to a certain degree, the participants have something to live up to with that. You can't have, what happened in Manchester with Manchester and Plymouth. You can't have the coaches or the bench people gesticulating to the crowd. The coaches have to basically just put plugs in their ears and not react backwards. But ultimately, either the players, and then we've seen, and sorry, the final thing is you've seen in the NBA, you saw that security guard in Minnesota last year. Who got the idea that someone was going to do something, and they were on court and they were wrestling at the ground, right? This is where the balance is. You can have this whole family thing, and you can have hard-edged professional sport, right? You can have the disco, if you want, like I'm getting the Newcastle at the moment with all the music, which is doing my head in. Or you can have the competition. Okay. But if you sell it to the crowd as one thing, don't complain when something else happens and when something kicks off. That's what I'm saying. So everybody's thinking they're there for a good time, clapping their hands, all this stuff, which is fine, and this is kind of primarily entertainment as opposed to sport. Well, don't get all precious when suddenly that kicks off and the players are going at each other and there's pushy shovey going on the court and the odd bad word is being spoken. Because that's part of the deal. And sometimes I don't think the message. I don't like them. I think the messaging around our league is gone a little bit haywire this year. I think we've been overhyped to a certain degree without getting the fundamentals in place. and the fundamentals of the game experience in place. The in-arena experience, I don't think is consistent, and I think it needs to be sorted out. And that's everything. I still don't like the fact, even at Newcastle, or as you say, at Surrey, when Mark got thrown out last week, he had to walk all the way around, and you walk down past the crowd. At Newcastle, the players have to, basically almost pushing past the crowd to get out in the corners. It's tough. And I know that certainly Newcastle have made things a bit better now when they don't let fans leave at the end until the players are out and the players have gone. But each arena is different. Each club is different. And they've all developed their own idiosyncrasies over the years. And I don't think that's good, to be honest. Because I think it lets a lot of parochial stuff kind of squeeze in, because this is what we do, because we do it better than this. We've always done this. We've always played this. We've always done that. And if you want to deal with really want to make an effort with the product, and there's not much merit, there's not much in it for them to make effort with the product, because they're still selling. These teams are selling out. So the league might just say, well, what's the point? The clubs are selling out. They're happy with all of that. But I think, if you're gonna expose this and upscale this to something what you want. I heard Radin's interview with, I think Sam did it on Hoops Fix. He put on kind of a summary of what Aaron Radin said at the All-Star game. And he said, yeah, we want to, we don't want 10% to be, going to be exponential in our increases with everything that we're doing. And I'm like, that's fine, but you can't get more people in the gyms at the moment. So you're gonna have to sort out, if you and it's not sustainable at this point in time to put people in bigger gyms, because either the gyms aren't there or they're massive and they're too expensive. So sort out what you can sort out, which is absolutely maximizing your product. And that's been my kind of bugbear ever since the TV timeouts earlier on the season and all the other stuff that I've whinged about incessantly throughout the year. And it's still kind of there. So this is kind of the last rant before we get into the playoffs.
Excellent. So Christian, 7 of 10 for 3 for 28 points. White, 16 points, 5 of 11 for 3. Rideau, 16 points and 8 assists. Jack, 0 for 7. They were 19 of 39. I think I already said that for 3, and 10 for 32 for 2. Matt Morgan, 30 points, 5 assists. Decker, 20 points, 7 of 11, 6 rebounds. Olashani, 6 of 10 for 18 points. So the league table finishes as thus: London 33-3, which equals Sheffield's record for the most wins in a season, and their 20-point lead over second place is the biggest ever lead over second place.
Oh, sorry, bugbear. Points are irrelevant. It's just times 2 wins. It wins times 2.
Yeah, except when you get a points deduction.
Which happens? When was the last time that happened?
Brighton.
20 years ago.
Well, it still happened. It's still in the league standings. That's why they're below the team that was above them.
Right, okay. Let's hang on to something because of Dennis Rodman.
Yeah, well, these are the reality is, I'm assuming, I haven't read the rules recently, but in the rules you can get a points deduction for various different things.
I'm quite impressed with your recollection of that, by the way.
Yeah,
I'm right on the spot there, and that was a good one. That was sharp. Just for those who know, Brighton brought Dennis Rodman over to play in 3 games. In the third of those games, it was against Thames Valley, I think, and Thames Valley put a complaint in.
The other way around. It was the first game against Guildford.
Right.
And
Guildford, sorry,
the problem wasn't Dennis Rodman per se. The problem was they hadn't deregistered somebody else.
Because they all wanted to play with Dennis Rodman.
They all wanted to play with Dennis Rodman.
So
they won the game, but then they ended up on appeal. It got over. The game got cancelled, and Guildford got the victory, and Brighton got 1 point deduction, and that 1 point deduction meant they finished below somebody in the table who they had the same record as, if I recall rightly.
Impressive.
And if you Google it, I'm pretty sure you can still find the independent report by Richard Taylor, probably online. So that the 10-win
10-win gap. Okay.
10-win gap is the biggest ever, if you prefer. So Cheshire 23-13, Caledonia also 23-13. Cheshire are second by virtue of points difference.
Overall points difference. And your life is made complete. Yeah.
Indeed. And in 20 years' time, when you ask me, when was the last time somebody went on points difference, I'm going to come back with this. Sheffield finished 4th, 90. Oh, by the way, that was both of theirs highest finish for quite a considerable time.
Yeah,
I can't remember
I
off
mean,
the
at the end
top
of
of
the
my
day,
head.
it's, we talk a lot about Cheshire. It's an unbelievable season for
Mm.
Cheshire.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
During
yeah.
13, I mean, given that they had a bit of a bump around Christmas, to
Mm.
come back the way they have, and stuck it together, that's a lot of credit for them.
Sheffield are fourth, 19 and 17. Leicester and Newcastle both 18 and 18. Leicester with a head-to-head, so finish above Newcastle. Bristol 16 and 20, and Surrey in eighth place, 14 and 22. Manchester finished ninth, 9 and 27, and Plymouth finish 10th, 7 and 29. We've kind of talked playoffs as we've gone
Yeah,
through.
a
Is
little
there
bit.
anything you wanted
Yeah.
to throw out there? I mean, to me, the
Not really.
interesting one is still, as I say, 2-7, whereas normally you'd lean to 4-5.
What's happening with the seedings? Do we know?
It's high seed, lower seed, as it's always
So,
been.
so it's not a bracket, so it's high
No, it's
seed,
not a
low
bracket.
seed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, that does make it, yeah. I mean, that makes the 2-7 game particularly interesting because
Mm,
then means that if the 7 were to beat the 2, then the 6-3-5-4, one of the 6-3-5-4 teams gets to the final.
yes,
No,
correct.
so and that kind of gives them a little bit of a leg up, and it means that they avoid London
Mm,
until the final, So whereas otherwise we were talking early season about avoiding fourth and fifth, weren't we?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. No, I think the games will be good. It'll be nice that they play one-off games and that they're trying to compete and win those games. I think the matchups are good. I mean,
Mm,
you look at Sheffield and Leicester; they've played close games.
mm,
Caledonia, Newcastle are 2-2, and played close games. And Bristol and Cheshire, we know is going to be a lot
mm.
of fun. I think.
I meant to
Um,
look it up because it feels to me geographically pretty close.
yeah.
When you look at it, Sheffield and
London.
Leicester not a million miles away. Newcastle is the closest place to Caledonia, London and Surrey.
Yeah, well,
So
absolutely. And if you don't, and even Bristol and Cheshire is just up the
yeah,
M6.
it's one road.
Yeah, and so I mean, if you don't think that Leicester didn't fancy 2 trips to Glasgow, you're mad.
Oh, I know Leicester didn't
There's no
fancy
way in the world they
two
wanted to
trips
go to
to Glasgow.
Glasgow
Yeah,
twice.
yeah, yeah.
But no, but maybe if they won the first game, they could have done it in 2 games. But to me, um, yeah, to me, it worked out better for Leicester and Sheffield. Well,
Mm,
certainly the travel helps, but it also worked out better for Newcastle because I don't think Newcastle had much of a snowball's chance against Sheffield in
mm.
that gym twice.
The
Uh,
yeah. So,
I
but
think we
I
get some
was
really good
thinking
games.
more about it for the fans. Leicester
Yeah,
and Sheffield fans will go in
absolutely, yeah.
decent number to each other, and Surrey's fans will go to the Copper Box, and Newcastle and Caledonia's fans will go
Yeah,
back, and it just
I
makes
agree.
life a little easier for people.
Yeah, I agree. So it should be good.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
should be good.
So on that note, I think we can wrap it up for this week. I believe I'm on Sunday. That was certainly what I was led to believe. So we'll be back. Oh, the one thing I didn't say. Shout out to Mike Shaft who announced
Oh,
his
Shafi,
retirement.
yes.
Shafty is hanging up the microphone, and I know they were saying on the Sheffield thing he's been Sheffield's commentator for
Why hasn't he?
25 years. He's been a lot longer than
Uh,
12. I was a kid going to games in Manchester and
uh,
Shafty was doing the
oh, well,
commentary. He
I was in
obviously did it in
Newcastle.
your neck of the woods as
Yeah, he
well.
lived up in Wickham. Yeah, he did Newcastle for a while.
Mm.
And Cheshire, obviously. And I think he might
Mm.
have been at Leeds for a little bit when Leeds were going.
Leeds, he did.
Yeah,
Birmingham,
Birmingham,
famously. How many
Birmingham, Abingdon,
shots?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
yeah,
But
yeah,
no, I mean, yeah, it's incredible longevity from
yeah, yeah,
just to keep going and
yeah,
going and going. And to be honest, to kind of keep it fresh to a
yeah,
certain degree. And there was stuff I liked that he did, and there was stuff which irritated the
yeah,
heck out
yeah,
he did. But that's the way everybody's going to
yeah,
be.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But to have that degree of enthusiasm and kind of commitment to it and willing to travel to do it,
yeah,
and he knew this, he knows his stuff.
yeah, yeah.
And, he knew the players, and he kind of figured out what was going on. So yeah, I wonder if will be back in the crowd at Sheffield or whatever. Difficult to imagine him not being there, really.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's gonna be slightly weird, but yes, no. Shout out to Shaft. Sad to see him hanging it up after all these years, but he's done a lot over that time. He was an owner at one stage. Did you know that? I think it was in the pre-BBL days.
I didn't know that. I
Yeah,
do
he
remember
was one of the.
he tried to resurrect Manchester. I
He
remember.
did try and resurrect Manchester, but I think one of the previous, I don't know, it was the old Manchester Giants, Olympic City, or Bolton or something. I'm
Yeah.
sure he was involved in something like that. But yeah.
Mm.
Anyway, so we wish him all the best in his retirement and congratulate him on an
Probably
excellent
coming soon to a
contribution.
podcast near
Yeah,
you.
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we all do when we pack in, don't we?
Everybody does it these days,
Everybody
don't
does.
they? So we will, on that note, call it a night for this week. As I say, I'm 99% sure I'm doing Sunday next week. So we'll be back on Monday again. But enjoy the playoff basketball, people, and it's spread out. You've got plenty of
Yeah, it
time.
looks
So
like it is. Yeah, it looks like
yeah,
they've read the games a little bit. So we'll see.
yeah.
The mates have to squeeze the second round in, mine, but
Well, I was thinking that, but
yeah, I was
yeah,
thinking.
yeah,
Amazing how one's mind immediately turns to the negative, isn't it?
yeah, indeed.
Well, the
Yeah.
games are nicely spread out. How are they going to fit the next ones in? Maybe they're hoping there'll be a
Yeah,
couple of 2-0s.
yeah.
Yeah, and we can get the other game started a bit quicker. Right. Yeah, cool. Should be fun.
Yeah, indeed. Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you again next week. Goodbye.
Bye.